Hello, Summer Uppers. This is a bonus episode of Let Me Sum Up, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Frankie Muscovich and Tennant Reed. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Hey.
And we're here to make a special announcement. And Frankie, given your formal role as Global Vice President for Marketing and Extortion at Let Me Sum Up podcast, I think it really must fall to you to make the big reveal. I think foreshadowed in the post-show of our final episode of 2023. What are we launching today?
Well, Summer Uppers, we did say that we were doing some work beavering away over the summer holidays, thinking about what next for this pod. And we are really pleased, and I'm really going to lean into the marketing side of the title rather than the extortion up front. So bear with me.
I'm not sure there's a difference in the end, but go on.
We are launching our Patreon. So I think, as you'll all know from our regular episodes, we do this on the side in addition to our day jobs. It's a labour of love, and we have, I think I speak for Luke and Tennant here, loved every minute of doing this pod the last couple of years, reading these reports and producing fortnightly pods.
Yes.
And it may or may not surprise you to know that this pod has been running on, if possible, less than the smell of an oily rag since we started
This podcast has cost us money.
It has, but we love it, so we've been doing it. So we're launching this Patreon as a way for you, Summer Uppers, if you are at all able to support us financially, to do some really basic things in the nitty-gritty of producing a podcast that would make our life better and more sustainable. And it's probably no bad thing to say that most of that burden, in terms of producing the show, has fallen on the lovely Luke Menzel, who, in addition to his role as kind of soft host of LMSU, has also been editing this podcast for the last 2 years, in all the spare time he doesn't have. So the Patreon is here. We're hoping to garner some support through it so that hopefully we can hire an editor, and that will free up Luke, and the rest of us to do more of what we love, which is read papers. And we're very excited to present this to you. There's lots of good things coming your way if you choose to sign up.
Yeah. I really love doing this podcast, but it is a pretty significant time commitment, just reading the papers and recording the episodes, and I really enjoy it. But you add in the editing and it gets pretty close to unsustainable. So finding a way of outsourcing the editing is kind of like the minimum viable product for this kind of working. And so after some serious thought, we're turning to all of you who seem to be quite into this podcast, and we are wondering whether you might chip us a few bucks to make it sustainable, help out with the editing and maybe other things down the track as the podcast continues to evolve. I suppose that all raises some obvious questions like, well, you're doing a Patreon. Did you consider running advertisements on the podcast? Is that something we thought about, Tennant?
Well, while I personally have always wanted the chance to read ads for meundies.com and Squarespace, we did think that this might compromise the editorial independence of this podcast. We wouldn't want to be unable to read reports about the devastating energy impacts of undies.
That's true.
So really what's most consistent with the mission and the quality of this podcast is to derive its support from the people who it's all about, which is you guys. We get a lot of satisfaction from providing some help to very busy people. We also are busy people. Luke is especially busy people. So rather than bringing in domineering sponsors who would make outrageous demands of us to go easy on their reports or do down their rivals or whatever, We want to keep things nice and simple and have a highly discerning group of magnificent listeners provide the means to keep this podcast regular and its hosts as sane as they were going in.
That would be a stretch goal.
Yeah.
So, okay, I understand why we're not doing advertisements. The other way that podcasts tend to make money is by selling merchandise. Have we considered that?
Is that directed at me, Luke?
Well, I could comment on it, Frankie, but you might prefer to tell your own story.
Maybe don't. Well, look, I cop a lot of flack for this from time to time on the pod, but I think we are interested in doing things like merch. The complication with this is obviously when you do a podcast about energy and climate and sustainability more broadly, you want to do it right.
Yep.
And there are certainly ways that, I could have sold thousands of T-shirts to y'all last year with, very little in the way of ESG credentials or transparency over how that happened. So we are interested in doing that, but we need some time to unpack that and, refer previous conversation. We're pretty busy people, and so the task of researching and getting into the nuts and bolts of merch is a little bit further down the list than producing our core component of the pod, being the podcast. And I guess my complicating factor is having just birthed a small human and dealing with a toddler on the side.
Yes.
I've got loads of spare time for this.
Well, and we do give you a lot of stick,
it's
Frankie.
really
but
shameful.
It comes from a place. It should not be shameful. It comes from a place of love. Like, the reason we give you shit about this is because I'll speak for myself, because I thought it was so insane that you took this on as a task, literally weeks before you birthed your second child.
Sure. I do want to say, though, I've made progress on all of that due diligence. All that remains is to action said due diligence. So I'm not giving up on the T-shirts, but I think if we were to rely on the sale of T-shirts to sustain this pod, you wouldn't be listening to any more LMSU in 2024. And I don't want that for you guys or for us.
So, say we subscribe to your Patreon, to our Patreon, what do our summer uppers get?
What don't they get?
A lot.
My goodness.
On their T-shirts for the moment.
Almost everything is on the list of the things they don't get. And maybe you should start with what they do get.
Yeah.
A warm glow of satisfaction.
There you go.
Knowing that among the already storied and magnificent elite of those who know how much fun this podcast is, you are one of the truest of bluest of believers who helps keep it going. I mean, that's pretty good, but that's not all.
Yes, well, in addition to the warm and fuzzy feeling that you'll no doubt be savouring from supporting all of us and saving Luke's sanity in particular, is you'll be getting a subscriber-only feed of the pod, to which you'll obviously get the regular pods, which we intend, not to change. The core offering is still the core offering there. But we will occasionally, from time to time, produce bonus episodes for subscribers only. So they might include, quick hot takes on the latest announcements or developments catching our attention, or there might be, papers that we want to chat about a little more informally. And, it's not a full episode, but they're like neat little extra content that we often try and talk about in our normal catch-ups, our social catch-ups, but you, dear listeners, will get access to all of that for supporting us.
But that wasn't all either. There's also a veritable cavalcade of Boko, including the notes on the papers.
I totally forgot about that.
But I didn't. These carefully curated notes are what we're looking at when we talk through the papers and include hidden gems that we never get time to talk through in the actual episodes. So if you really want to get to the bottom of what's in these papers without actually still having to read the whole papers, these svelte and shapely notes will be the answer to your prayers.
All right. Well, that all sounds amazing. What is the low price for getting all this amazing boko?
For the low price of $10 a month, you could be one of the superest of summer operas. That's $10 a month.
Frankie, does that cover it? Anything you want to add?
I mean, I feel like that was pretty sugary.
Ooh.
Do I need to with the spice at the end? I don't think so. These are our regulars listening to us.
They know what to be afraid of already.
Yeah, that's true. I would just, really appreciate, anything that people feel like they could contribute to help us out. As I said, we all really love doing this, and we're literally just looking to make this as sustainable as possible for us to keep delivering, the content that you're all enjoying. And thank you for listening.
And right now, as you listen, the Patreon feed is up. If you subscribe, you can listen to the very first bonus episode, which is our chat about Victoria's update to the gas substitution roadmap, which was released in December 2023 when we were all at COP. We didn't get to it on the main show. It was a couple of months ago now, but I know it's a topic that many of you are super interested in, so we chatted about that for a bit, and it is in the feed. So if that's of interest, that's a little present for you if you do indeed decide to sign up out of the gate. So there you have it, folks. Patreon.com/Let Me Sum Up. The link is in the show notes. We'll be back with our first proper episode for 2024 very, very soon. But until then, for Frankie Muskich and Tennant Reid, I'm Luke Menzel. Thanks for the support, and we'll talk to you again soon. There you go.
That's good.
We could have done a list of things that we won't be doing for Patreon subscribers.
That seemed to be where you were going initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What aren't you going to do, Tennant?
We won't be assigning them secret ranks in our secret society.
Oh, I love that, though.
We won't be requiring them to send us an audio taped confession in place of one of their monthly subscriber fees.
These are all great. We should add another tier immediately.
We won't be offering subscribers an exclusive once annual camp retreat where Let Me Sum Up anthems will be sung through all waking hours.
Oh, that's a little creepy.
So effectively, Tennant, you promise, really promise we're not a cult.
I do promise that.
He thinks you protested too much.
Yeah, just like all famed cult leaders.
That's the way to tell who's not a cult. If they say, we are not a cult, you have no choice but to believe them.
I'm glad you cleared that up.